On my first visit to Holiday World back in June 2002, you really just had to focus on one of the sections of the park, the Halloween area. Raven and Legend, Legend and Raven. You could just go back and forth between these two awesome CCI wooden coasters. You ride Raven a few times, walk down the hill to ride Legend, then back up to Raven. This is basically all there was, and it was good enough for us back then. But in 2005, Holiday World announced that their coaster lineup would be expanding. Would it be a relocated Boomerang? No, not that. How about an SLC? No, not that either. The engineers over at CCI had seen their company go defunct a few years earlier and formed a new company called the Gravity Group, and their first project was Hades at Mount Olympus in Wisconsin. The Gravity Group team was very familiar with Holiday World and vice versa, and the two decided to work together once again to rock the coaster world with something ridiculous. This would be a 159-foot wooden coaster with a steel structure that would venture out into the woods and would be barely visible to the guests in the park. Oh, and it would be 6,442 feet long and top out at 67 miles per hour. This would be the flagship attraction of the brand new Thanksgiving section of the park, and it turned out to be just as spectacular as it sounded, winning the Golden Ticket Award for the best wooden coaster for 5 straight years between 2007 through 2011. I finally got my first rides on this back in 2016. I went in with high expectations, thinking this could challenge El Toro for my #1 spot, and after 5 rides on that first day, I walked away with mixed emotions. Today, I'll discuss the pros and cons of the Voyage. The first pro is that it has the most seconds of airtime on any wooden coaster in the world. It actually held the record for any coaster until Steel Vengeance came along in 2018. You're constantly out of your seat from the first drop to the final turn into the brake run, but there's one issue with the airtime, and you'll find that with the first con. And that first con is that the airtime is weak. On the first drop and the first hill, you get some pretty good sustained floater, but throughout the Spaghetti Bowl section and everything after the mid-course, it feels like you're floating out of your seat, but not a whole lot. So despite having the most airtime, I would say the vast majority of it is not quality airtime that you'll find on El Toro or RMCs, or most of the coasters I rank ahead of the Voyage on my top 50 list. The second pro is the triple down. You come off that mid-course brake run and slow way down, and you feel like the train is at ground level and you're way out in the middle of the woods. How are you going to make it back to the station? The Voyage regains its speed in the best way possible, a triple down. A normal drop would not have been quite as good because of the loss of speed off the mid-course brakes, but a triple down allows the train to pick up speed as it hits those hills and gives everyone on the train some extra airtime. And you can't really see it coming in that dark tunnel. You don't see triple downs too often on coasters, so this is a great and unique element. The second con is the harsh brake run before that triple down, and I totally get why it's there. Wooden coasters absolutely tear themselves apart, and controlling the speed helps preserve the track so it doesn't have to be replaced as often. Every year, Holiday World hosts the ACE event called Hollywood Nights and will turn the trims off for the coaster enthusiasts. This is a special occasion that gives some ridiculous rides according to the people who have attended, and I hope to get out there next year. But on my trips to Holiday World on regular operating days, those brakes slow the train down, which makes the second half of the ride slower, with less airtime, and less insane. Again, I get why it's there, but it's still a con. The third pro is the setting in the woods, and you can get some good pictures and video of the lift hill and the end of the return trip to the station, but that's it. There's so much track located out in the woods that you feel like you've completely left the park and need to find your way back. Holiday World does a really good job hiding their rides from guest view, which is a nightmare for photographers, but as a rider, it's really cool. The third con is the PTC trains, and these trains have quite the history. It opened up with 7-car PTC trains, but those trains were sold to Darien Lake so they can use them on their Din wooden coaster, Predator. The idea was that the Voyage would transition to the new Timberliner trains, which are popular on other Gravity Group coasters. This project was delayed, and since they had already sold the trains, a train from the Raven was brought over so the Voyage could stay open. In 2011, Holiday World bought new 6-car PTC trains, and by 2013 they announced that the Timberliners would not be coming to the Voyage. So they ended up where they started, minus 1 car on their PTC trains, and I think I speak for a lot of coaster fans when I say that PTC trains are not the best. For me, it's really easy to end up stapled with the forces on the ride, and you generally need to ride in the middle row of the 3-row cars to get a smooth ride. Timberliners would have been a lot more comfortable, or even Millennium Flyers that you'll find on a lot of GCI wooden coasters. The fourth pro is the use of terrain. This is a total terrain coaster. After the first drop and the first 2 hills, this thing dives underground and rides right along the terrain the whole rest of the way. The brilliant thing about this layout is that throughout the whole journey out to the Spaghetti Bowl section, it's gaining altitude. You're literally climbing a hill and you don't even know it. So when you hit that mid-course brake run, you're at ground level, but then you hit that triple down to gain all of your speed back to complete the course. It seems impossible that you could pick up that much speed after slowing down that much at ground level, but because of the terrain, it happens. This might be the best terrain coaster ever built, though Lightning Rod may have something to say about that. The fourth, final, and biggest con is the roughness. Holiday World takes a lot of pride in this coaster, just like they do for all of their coasters, and honestly it's not that rough. But because of how big, fast, and long this thing is, the roughness can get to you. The park is constantly addressing problem areas of the track, and I actually think that my 2018 rides were smoother than my 2016 rides. I got 5 rides on Voyage on each visit, but I admit that it was hard to marathon it even though the lines were short and I could have done it. It would have been phenomenal if this could have the same level of roughness as a coaster like Ghost Rider or Mystic Timbers, but anything short of a total retrack wouldn't get it to that point. Again, it's not that rough, but given the nature of the ride, it's a grind. On September 19th, it was just announced that the Voyage would be down for the remainder of the 2019 season so they can do some major track work for next season. So that should definitely produce a smoother ride. The fifth, final, and biggest pro is the length. 6,442 feet of track that's navigated using a 159-foot lift hill and a top speed of 67 miles per hour. It's the 8th longest coaster in the world, the 4th longest coaster in the US, and the 2nd longest wooden coaster in the world. This thing is a beast. Not to be confused with The Beast, which is the only wooden coaster that's actually longer than the Voyage. From the 3 big hills to the tunnels to the Spaghetti Bowl section to the triple down to the long windy return trip to the station, this ride is absolutely appropriately named. It's a Voyage. This coaster's layout is a masterpiece. For all the pros and cons mentioned here, it finds itself at my number 19 spot out of 418 credits. No matter how you cut it, that's pretty good. Holiday World went all out for this coaster in 2006. They held nothing back and made a world-class coaster that has been a destination for coaster enthusiasts for 14 seasons and is the main event at Hollywood Nights. If this is not on your bucket list, it absolutely should be because there's nothing else out there really like it. People rave about the Beast and its wooded setting, but the Voyage does the same thing but with a much stronger layout. So that's going to wrap up my thoughts on the Voyage. Let me know what you think in the comments below and where this ranks in your top 10 or among your top wooden coasters. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys all next time.